Greetings, friends. My favorite type of story are the short and unexplainable ones. The ones that you can't really make sense of. Stories that often take the form of hazy memories that linger at the back of your mind. Things that with time, you rationalize as just being some sort of false memory. That being said, these stories oftentimes are the most compelling, and for some reason, the ones I find myself thinking about the most. Tonight, I've gathered my favorite stories of this kind. So to set the mood, find a dark room or maybe take your car outside town, drive down an old dirt road and park it in a dark, empty place. And put the headphones in and turn the volume up. Sit down and imagine candles in your mind. And we'll play a sort of miniature version of Hayaku Monogatari. And remember, friends, sometimes when you think you're being watched, you are. Story 1. Be 18. Friends and I are on our way to go camping in the woods. Never been at this certain spot. Load up car and get going. I just had to get some sleep on the way. Wake up and we're there. Set up tents, etc. Fast forward to nightfall. Decide to tell scary stories around the campfire. One of my friends tells us about a local legend of some deer skull creature. It has a human male torso and arms, with a deer's skull for a head and a snake tail below its waist. Don't remember the exact story. Something about a girl named Lofty. We decide to call it a night and sleep. Can't sleep for some reason. Get out of tent to pee. See the deer creature standing right where our fire was, with its back to me. Piss myself. I suddenly wake up, back in the car. I dream the entire thing. Setting up the tents, telling scary stories, seeing the creature. It was all somehow just a dream. We get to campsite. It turns out to be the same one from my dream. I'd never been there before. I freaked out and asked my friend, the one who told the story, if he knew about the legend. And he didn't know what I was talking about. The rest of the trip went fine. Nothing abnormal. Story 2. I used to work in private security for various companies. It was long and usually pretty dull, but I made some pretty good cash at the time. However, I still remember some freaky stuff that happened to me one night when I was supposed to be guarding this company that specialized in biological research for medicinal purposes. Leave house at 23:45 to drive to the building I'm supposed to monitor. Been working this job for about 3 months. Usually just sit in the security office and read magazines. Stereotype.jpg. Arrive at the building in uniform. I relieve the guard on watch before mine. Name of Howard. Don't know him very well, but he seems like a decent enough guy. Make a bit of small talk while we change shifts. Something seems a little odd, but I can't quite place it. Howard leaves and I take up my watch. Guarding an empty hallway for 8 hours every single night. Most interesting job in the world. Snore. Decide to see if anybody left any food in the break room. Smell rancid stench. Try to not think about it, but decide that I can't just let it go. I am a security guard after all, and I decide to search the room for the source. I check everywhere. Finally, I look in a cupboard underneath the sink. My face when I find a body underneath. Looks like it was skinned. Alright, I'm just a security guard, and this is way above my pay grade, so I call the cops. When they get there, I'm detained, and they think I did it. Body is eventually identified. It's Howard. What? Cops already heard my testimony about having talked to Howard earlier. Many searches of the property are conducted. Later learned that Howard's apparently gone missing, as have his wife and 2 kids. I quit that job ASAP after that. Whether it was the result of some messed up experiment from inside the building escaping, or just somehow a coincidence, I don't want to know. I try not to think about whatever the hell it was that I talked to in the hallway when I was switching shifts. But I feel terrified whenever I think of just how close I came to potentially having my life ended without even knowing it. Number 3. Alright, I'll bite. Not in a woods, but after work at around 2 in the morning. At the time, my parents were the only people with a car at my residence. Had to wake them up in the wee hours of the morning to get home. Sometimes it wasn't easy. Go to a phone at work. Try the numbers. This number is not available. Huh? Ask to borrow a coworker's phone. Dial Mom's number. Same thing. And yes, I made sure it was the right number. Dial again. Hear heavy breathing on the other line. Can you see me? It's a voice I don't recognize. I'm out in the parking lot, whirling around to see if I can see anything or anyone, but nothing's there. I have a piece of your hair. Hang the phone up and run inside. Hysterical. Call Mom's number from the office phone. She picks up and comes to get me. Also, call police. They don't find anything, and the call is traced back to her phone. Story 4. I developed a weird hobby for most of the year back in 2020. I'd prowl the internet looking for ancient and decrepit forums. You know, the kinds that no one posts on anymore. The ones that are long dead and forgotten ever since Facebook and Twitter and Lib came into being. And when I found one, I'd register a new account, if I could, and just start messaging random, particularly old accounts. Usually I'd send weird images, creepy photos, stuff like that. And occasionally I'd ask weird questions like, is anybody there? Or, what are you? Well, the novelty wore off quickly, but I couldn't help myself but keep doing it. I'd constantly check my email and the inbox on whatever forum I was on to see if anybody responded, to see if maybe I'd weirded some guy out or something, and I'd always get this little hit of adrenaline before I saw my inbox lay bare, or my most recently received email was for enlargement pills. The thrill of the idea of someone responding, as voyeuristic as it was, somehow kept me going. I received quite a few replies, surprisingly, and usually it was people laughing me off or asking if I was a spam bot or some telling me to, irk, etc., but no one really worth noting. But then, in November, I got kind of a weird response. On some old forum for, I think, Second Life fan groups or something, I'd messaged a guy who hadn't logged in since 2006. My message was simple. It was all in lowercase, italicized, and just read, "Why are you here?" I picked him out in particular for no real reason other than his real name was displayed in his profile, and we shared first names. I decided as a bit, I'd do my profile as similar to his as possible, and even use the same name as he did. I wanted to mess with him and hoped I'd get a funny response or something. I didn't. Simply attached in the garbage SMS system on the website was a video. It was low quality and looked compressed to even fit on the website, and It was of the outside of this suburban home late at night. The footage was fuzzy, dim, and tinged with a sickly orange color. No lights were on in the house, and the camera seemed to be sat in some bushes or something. Eventually, the bushes started rustling as the camera was repositioned, and it was sat directly in front of the house. The door was centered in the view. Slowly, the camera zoomed in on the front door, and 2 windows at the front barely were visible in the periphery. One of the windows opened, and some guy in baggy white clothing climbed out. I could only see his side, but it looked like he was wearing some kind of streetwear or something. That's the best I can describe his clothes. And slowly, the camera zoomed out again, giving a wide berth of the front yard once more. And then, 6 men walked into the front yard from the left and right of the camera's view, standing together, facing the house and clasping hands. The video didn't have audio, but it seemed like they were singing something. The house's lights turned on, and then a silhouette of a woman walked in front of one of the windows. Again, the video quality was garbage, but it looked like she was shocked by something, before quickly being hit and falling backwards. This was the weirdest reply that I'd ever gotten in my entire time of doing this hobby, and I guess it was kind of what broke the habit. Somebody managed to top my weirdness. I tried to go back and get the video from the site before I began typing all this up, but it was banned for spam. And weirdly, it seemed like a lot of the people that I'd messaged before on that particular site decided to come online. But there was no other profile activity, however. Story 5. Be really young, maybe 9 or 10 years old. Sitting in the living room of my dad's basement apartment with my dad, watching TV. My dad likes to play guitar, and he has it hanging on the wall when he isn't playing it. Lone guitar string gets plucked. I look at my dad wide-eyed. He just looks back at me and says, "It was a ghost," but with this weird smile on his face. Be stupid kid and think since he said it with a smile, it must mean that it's a friendly ghost. I don't think anything more about it. Story 6. I think that my mom sold my soul or something. When I was young, like 5 or 4 years old, my mom bought me one of those ritual books because she was super into the paranormal and started trying some of the stuff that it said inside. Eventually, she saw me wake up from my bed in the middle of the night and just stand there staring into the hallway, and I repeated this several times. After this, she started to get nervous and threw the book away. And past that point, she never saw me do it again. The weird thing is, every single animal that I see goes crazy on me to the point of neighbors even talking about it and making fun of me, and people treat me like I'm a psycho or something, only because of that. Story 7. I had a couple of weird things happen to me when I was doing maintenance work. Be me a few years ago. Working a shitty maintenance job that requires me to do shit all over. Get called in to go paint lines and do some repairs in some store's parking lot. Have to drive out to Port Townsend in the middle of the night so customers don't get in the way. And get into town around 1 a.m. and it's totally dead as expected. My coworker and I get to work painting and crap. About an hour later, we turn off some of the equipment to clean up the work, and my coworker starts filling some concrete cracks. Seconds later, I notice that it's dead silent. No cars, no wind, not even any animal sounds. Well, except for when I hear what sounds like whispering voices and almost like a cat meowing or something. Assume that some addict is going to try and steal our stuff. Turn around real fast to surprise him. I see 5 or 6 deer standing in the bank parking lot across the street, staring at me. One is in the middle of the street between me and the bank, and it was almost like it was coming to approach me. These deer weren't there 2 seconds ago. Stare the big sumbitch down. Try to grab a shovel just in case. Turn back, and they've all vanished, again without making a sound. Coworker comes back, and we leave. It was especially strange to see deer like that because right before that we were using loud equipment and tools like a gas-powered paint stripper and leaf blower that would normally scare animals off. Here's another one. Less creepy, but it was a weird thing that happened at that same job. Fast forward to the winter of the same year. Still at that crappy maintenance job. Get called in to go spread de-icing stuff in parking lots at night. Head out to Port Hadlock. This time I'm riding solo. Get to the lot around 3 a.m. Like the other job, the whole town is dead quiet, surrounded by trees and forest area. The only thing that was making sound was me spreading rock salt stuff around the lot. Almost done for the night, thank God. Check my phone so I can write down temperatures and times for my work order. Hear a thump to my left. Look over and see a perfectly intact, unopened Snickers bar just appear out of nowhere. I'd walked around the whole lot like 3 times spreading this de-icer shit, and it wasn't there before. Walk over to look at it. And it's one of those Snickers with a word instead of the Snickers logo. It says, confused. Yeah, Snickers. I am confused. I kick it into the woods and leave. Story 8. 14 years old. In bed, comfy and cozy. Suddenly, hear the word sinister clearly in my ear, in my mother's voice. Nearly pissed myself out of surprise. Creeped out, but eventually I fall asleep again. Story 9. Be 10 or 12 years old. Live in a bad part of town. Not exactly the hood, but not the best place to live. At school, eating lunch and talking with friends. Get up and go to the bathroom. Had to pee. Bathroom's empty, which is weird considering it's lunchtime. Really quiet except for the buzz of electronic lights. Remember hearing this vague gurgling sound. Shrug it off, take a piss at the urinal, and go to wash my hands. Turn the sink on. Nothing comes out. Sigh and fiddle around with the handles, trying to get the water to come out. Hear that gurgling sound again, coming from one of the stalls. Wander over to it and open each one. All 3 of them are empty. But as I go to close the last one, for a split second, I swear to God that I saw someone or something hanging from the ceiling in the stall. Like I blinked and it just appeared there, and then vanished. Sink finally works. Wash my hands and get the hell out of there. Story 10. Okay, fellas, I've read a lot of these. Time to contribute. For what it's worth, this is real. Be around 12 years old. Nice, warm summer day. On my PC in my bedroom. hear a loud bang and popping sound to my right and a splatter a split second later. See whatever it was that exploded in the air in the corner of my eye. See black splatter of something on my door. The pop or burst or whatever it was happened really close to a window. I assumed that someone had shot a paintball into my room or something because the trajectory went through it. Go to clean up the black splatter with toilet paper and flush it down. Go to the window to clean up. I have a net, so I assume the paintball burst because of the net. But there's nothing. The net's totally clear. There should be pieces of the paintball shell around. The more I look around my backyard through the window, the more I realize that it's kind of impossible to even get a shot into where the black goo had splattered. I start to freak out. In short, I feel like something spawned in my room, made a really loud bang, and then left a black goo splattered on my door. Anyone know what happened? Because I still don't. Story 11. I'm not sure if it's legitimately supernatural or just mental illness, but a close friend of mine lost his mind after getting pretty deep into the occult. He got a tattoo of a sigil of Lucifer a few years before he completely lost it. I can't hold a conversation with him anymore because he's evangelically nihilistic about free will, meaning, etc. We used to always have long-winded conversations about philosophy, religion, and the occult. We were both relatively well-read. But he wound up in this place where he's now positive that free will doesn't exist at all, and he descended into full-blown solipsism. It's to the extent where he doesn't talk about anything else or relate to me in a normal way like he used to. I never practiced magic myself, but I was interested in the occult from a historical and academic perspective, and he was really knowledgeable. He joined some organization affiliated with the Freemasons and lost his mind pretty shortly after. Seeing it happen up close makes me wonder if there's some darker forces at play that he invited into his life. Maybe he already had mental illness, or maybe just holding certain beliefs sends you into a negative feedback loop that ends with insanity. Story 12. This happened to me 3 nights ago. Go outside at 10 to have a cigarette and a bowl. Walk into my barn to grab my stuff. Hear cracking in the woods. Catch a glimpse of what looks to be a guy. He's staring at me. Hear a cough as he turns around into the woods. Creeped out as I walk into the barn. I shut the door and turn on the lights. Pack a bowl while smoking a cigarette. Immediately after sparking the bowl, I hear a loud single knock on the back of the garage. Think nothing of it. 2 knocks. Trying to ignore fear as I light my bowl. 3 knocks. Am I that stoned? Power through the rest of the bowl. Grab flashlight and walk outside. Shine light at the back of the barn. Scrawny, middle-aged man in white t-shirt and jeans staring back at me. He smiles. Run the hell out of there. Open the door to my house. Hear something moving behind me, but turn around and nobody's there. Walk inside. Hear a knock on the door. 2 knocks. 3 knocks. Check door. Nobody's there. Story 13. My mother had just dropped me off at my diabetic grandfather's for the rest of the weekend. Due to the house being new, I start exploring. I go upstairs to find 2 rooms. My grandfather's bedroom and a locked door. I decide to peek underneath the door. 2 gorilla feet just standing there. Beautiful pink room behind the feet. I get my fingers underneath the door and poke at the feet. I hear a scream, but the feet don't move. I run back downstairs to tell my grandfather. He tells me a monster owns that room. Doesn't seem to be affected by the scream. I stay up the following night to peek under the door again. The gorilla now lays on the bed, but I can only see its feet hanging off the edge. I cry myself to sleep afterwards. Story 14. Sorry if I just posted a thread of my own about this, but I really want to know if anybody knows what this might have been. In the car with my mom. She's driving at 5 a.m. About 10 minutes away from home, finally, passing through the main street of a little town on the way. The roads are empty and every store is closed. We pass a parking lot and set off from the road a bit with blinking ambulances and a helicopter parked there. Must have been a big accident nearby. Hope everyone's okay. Keep going down the road. See where the accident actually is. A bunch of cop cars and stuff. We can't see whatever cars were or are there. The road's blocked off. So we turn around the way we came to take another way back home. About 500 feet down the road from where it's cordoned off, I see a guy on the sidewalk dressed in all black with his hood up. I'm surprised to see anybody there on the street at this time of night. Spooky. Wait. What? My eyes travel to where this guy's face should be, and it's just a flat black space. As we get closer, I'm still trying to figure out if he really does have no face. And it's just completely blank. No reflection from our headlights or the street lights. Can't even see the whites of his eyes. Nothing. Feel like he's staring straight at me as we're passing him. Like, seriously, I'm just getting an off feeling that's stopping me from writing this off as just a trick of the light or something. I just get the feeling that whatever this thing was, it wasn't actually a person. We drive by and can see him turn around to look at our car. We're a bit further away now, but still can't see any of his features. Just the motion of his head turning. Felt really uneasy the whole way home. Story 15. Not paranormal, but unsettling nonetheless. Be me. Talking to a brother on the phone. Talking about lawnmowers because he just bought a house. Ask him if he's heard of the self-driving GPS lawnmowers that are kind of like Roomba vacuums but for yard work. Next day, on the internet, reading an album review or something and see an ad for a self-driving lawnmower. I've never Googled anything about lawnmowers in my life. I only know about GPS mowers because I was at the hardware store earlier that week. I don't have Alexa or Google Home or social media of any kind, which means my phone microphone picked it up from my conversation. Made me very, very uncomfortable. And that's all for tonight, folks. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, and you can become a channel member if you'd like to get more say in what type of videos I make. You can also support on Patreon, and everything is appreciated. See you guys in the next one.